Welcome everybody from the Rotary Club of Bombay West. As you all know, this is yet another edition of our ongoing series of reaching out for information for the public, and I welcome you all to this. And I think for now, I would request Amit ji to kindly start with the proceedings without further ado. Thank you.
Gautam bhai, can we request Ramesh bhai to say something about our series of seminar?
Yes, sure.
And then I will
Ramesh ji, I would invite you.
Then I will take half a minute to welcome everyone once again.
Yeah.
Ramesh bhai, please go ahead. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Gautam Chande sir, President of the Rotary Club Bombay West, Hiralal Sutarji, and all other participants. Thank you very much. And it is our 4th year. We have been continually doing this first Sunday of every month, layman series for housing societies. I think it is taking a good shape, and wish you all the best. And today's speaker, C. Amit More, is one of the good speakers who will deal with the accounts and audit for the housing societies. With this, over to Hiralal Sutarji. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Good morning, friends and dear participants. Friends, happy, privileged and elated to be welcoming you to this Sunday morning, the first Sunday of November 2021. Friends, when our very active past President Roten Anandji proposed holding of the layman education seminars on the topic of cooperative laws and property laws with effect from July 2018, during his presidency of our prestigious Rotary Club of Bombay West, and entrusted me to be the convenership of this project. I never imagined that it will enter its 4th years, and today is the 41st event. Friends, once again, I welcome you all and request Amit ji to go ahead with his presentation. Thank you, friends. Amit ji.
I think Hiralal ji, Dharmendra ji needs to introduce him first.
Yeah, introduction. Yes, it's me.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So thanks, Tejas. Thanks, Hiralal ji.
Please introduce Amit ji. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's my proud privilege to introduce CA Amit More. He is MCOM FCA and partner in AA More and Company. His main area of practice is RERA, cooperative audit, income tax audit, bank audits, etc. And he has delivered lectures on workshop, RERA, cooperatives, and affordable housing in training workshops and seminars organized by WIRC through its branches all over Maharashtra, various CP study circle, WIRC study group, various associations, and business meets, international RRC by Kalyan Dombivli branch. He's also a faculty for students at ITT program organized by ICAI, and Taxman has published his articles in Maharashtra RERA Law and Practice, Manual for Maharashtra RERA by WIRC, and he is a contributor to WIRC references for 2016-17 to 2019-20 in cooperative section. And he has worked as a faculty for accounts and taxation for various management institutions and colleges throughout Mumbai. And also he's a convener for Dombivli CP study circle. So welcome, Amit ji, over to you. Amit ji, please unmute yourself.
Lost.
I think he has gone offline. Looks like he has.
I think he has gone offline. Okay.
We'll just wait for him to rejoin. Dharmendra, in the meantime, maybe you can talk a little bit about our club.
Yeah, so our club is, as you know, that Rotary is an international organization where 1.4 million Rotarians are there across the world, and out of 35,000 clubs, Rotary Club of Bombay West is one of the premium club established, chartered in 1954. And it's our proud privilege that we, in the financial capital of India, we are situated at Juhutara Road, and the building which we have is also one of the second oldest building owned by any Rotary Club in the world after Chicago. Rotary has been involved in various human service activities. One of the biggest project which you must be knowing about, polio eradication, and which was the drive initiated by Rotary itself, and even each and every dose which has been given to anybody in the world has been sponsored by Rotary to the nations. We are fortunate enough to be associated with Rotary Club of Bombay West and serving the community in rural area, in medical, in urban, in all aspects of life. So many of you might have visited our club. If not, please do come and visit and be associated with all the activities, which is service above self. And now Mr. Amit has come. So Amitji, we lost you in between. So we request to start your session today. Please unmute yourself. Can you hear me?
I think he's, yeah,
Yes,
okay.
I'm
Now,
Sorry, there was some issue with my internet connection. Host disabled participant screen sharing, that message is appearing. Please give me a presentation right.
No, we can't.
Still, it is disabled. Screen sharing is disabled. I am not able to start presentation.
Just can you do something?
You're not able to start your presentation?
Sharing rights, you have to enable it again because he lost the connection.
No, I have made in the host. So okay, now
Yes.
you try.
Now, yes. Okay. Now my screen is there, right?
Yeah, it is visible now.
Okay. So today's topic is accounts and audit in cooperative housing societies for a layman. And first of all, I would like to thank Rotary Club of Bombay West and Mr. Hiralalji, Rotarian Hiralalji, for inviting me to give presentation on this particular topic. I would request all the participants, as and when they have any question in their mind which is related with this particular slide, you can ask me immediately, no issue. So we can make this particular session in this. This is a very common area, and almost all of us who reside in Mumbai come across with this particular situation, because all of us we live in a cooperative housing society. So this particular area is very touching to our heart, and we all, as a common man, we in day-to-day life also we deal with activities of cooperative housing societies, and whenever something happens in our own housing society, we try to raise questions, and we try to get resolutions for all those questions which we face in our own premises. So this is this is a cooperative housing society. Actually, we think this cooperative movement only from the perspective of residential cooperative housing society, and if we can go one step ahead, we have cooperative banks around us. If we go one step more ahead, we have product like Amul, which is based on a cooperative movement. तो उसके आगे हम लोग पूछ रहे हैं कि देर इज कोऑपरेटिव मूवमेंट एंड व्हाट इज अ कोऑपरेटिव मूवमेंट इन महाराष्ट्र. एक पॉइंट ध्यान में आता है तो कोऑपरेटिव शुगर फैक्ट्रीज. सो दिस टाइप ऑफ कोऑपरेटिव मूवमेंट्स वी डील विथ इन आवर डे टू डे लाइफ, but most important and touching to our heart is cooperative housing society. So it is a institution that has emerged the largest in the world. So cooperative movement is the largest movement in the world, and this sector provides self-employment and availability of employment to all the peoples in the society. So this is very important field, that is a cooperative field, and Maharashtra occupies a prominent position in this cooperative movement in India also and in the world also. So what is a cooperative? Cooperative, we commonly known as a cooperative, co-op. It is an autonomous association of people who united voluntarily to maintain their common economic and social cultural needs and aspirant through jointly owned democratical controlled business. This is a typical definition of a cooperative. There are few basic principles of cooperative. That is, it is a voluntary and open membership that is open to all without any gender, social, practical, political, or religious discrimination. It is a democratic owner control. One owner, one vote is the principle. Say, for example, if in a society a person holding 10 flats, still he have only one voting right. So he cannot vote for his 10 flats against the remaining flats in that particular society. So one person, one vote is a basic democratic principle over here. Then owners' economic participation. Of course, if we talk about housing society, what is the economic participation? Economic participation is by way of payment of regular maintenance. So it is the economic participation to run the show of the society. Payment of regular maintenance must. So owners' economic participation is a must. Then autonomy and independence. Cooperative body is an independent body. It has a common seal. It has a perpetual establishment. So it is a independent body. Then education and training. This is introduced as per that constitutional amendment and amendment in Cooperative Act also. So education and training is one of the important area of cooperative principle. Then cooperation amongst cooperatives. So cooperative movement should go ahead by way of cooperation amongst cooperative. If we take any example, in case of a housing society, it is must to open a account with cooperative bank. So it is by way of give and take relationship. So cooperation amongst cooperative and concern for the community. If we think, if we check this COVID-19 situation also, concern about community was the basic cooperative principle which was highlighted in recent past also. Then the next question arises in our mind, if this is so good and so required area, then why there is a failure in cooperative? If we check, dormant membership and lack of active participation is a major area which is a basic reason of failure of cooperative in the country. If we take example, in case of our own cooperative housing society also, normally it is habit of a member that they do not take any active participation in administration of the society, but always keep on complaining about ये नहीं हो रहा है, वो नहीं हो रहा है, लेकिन मैं कुछ नहीं कर रहा हूँ, को कोई देखता नहीं है. So there is a situation of dormant membership and lack of active participation. That is the main reason of failure of cooperative, because there is no owner in cooperative. Everyone is having equal rights, so everyone has to participate in moment of cooperative. So mounting overdues in cooperative credit institutions. So non-payment of regular maintenance activities, non-payment of regular contribution to cooperative credit societies or even banks, that resulting in the failure of cooperative movement. Then over dependence on government assistance. Many institutions which are running on government, they over dependent on government assistance. This happens in case of a milk cooperative areas or sugar cooperative areas. They depend on government assistance for their funding. That is also one of the reason of failure. And next one is the lack of professional management. This is most important area which almost all cooperative housing societies especially they are lacking. That is lack of professional management, because common man runs the show as per their knowledge, as per their experience, and professional management is lacking in case of cooperative societies. That is hazardous to this particular cooperative movement. Bureaucratic control and interference in the management, political interference and over polarization. This normally not happens in case of a housing society, but yes, there are few issues which as a cooperative housing society also you need to follow. Then predominance of vested interest. So this is the worst area, and all this area lies in all types of cooperative movement and otherwise also. So vested interest. If the management is having any kind of vested interest in the organization, that organization is it is a fate of that particular organization, and it happens normally that cooperative movement is also one of the main issue in the cooperative failure, that is vested interest. If we go ahead, law governing cooperative societies. Basic cooperative societies, if we talk about only about cooperative housing society, then parent act is the Cooperative Societies Act 1912. Based on that parent act, there is one more act, that is Maharashtra Cooperative Societies Act 1960. So if we talk about cooperative housing society, then we need to check these two acts. That is Cooperative Societies Act. This is the Central Cooperative Societies Act 1912. And more specifically, we are covered under the Maharashtra Cooperative Societies Act 1960. If we talk only about Maharashtra, then entire movement of cooperative is covered under the Maharashtra Cooperative Act 1960. We commonly call it as NCS Act 1960. And there was a last amendment made in this particular act, that is a major amendment in this particular act is a 14th February 2013. That was a major amendment in this particular cooperative act. And there is one more major amendment, more specifically, if we talk about housing society, then in the March 2019, they have inserted cooperative chapter in the Cooperative Act, which is specifically dealing with the housing societies. So we, while going through, we will check that particular chapter also. Then all acts, there has to be some rules how to govern that particular act. So under Maharashtra Cooperative Societies Act, there is Maharashtra Cooperative Societies Rules 1961. Along with act and rules, there are rules and regulations known as the bylaws of the society, approved by the registrar, applicable to a particular housing society. So bylaws of the society. And of course, there are few notifications and orders issued under the powers of the act and rules. So these are the main four areas, that is Act, Rule, Bylaw, and Notification and Order, which deal with housing societies. If we talk about major changes in cooperative societies in 2013 Amendment Act, there was a cooperative education and training to members and committee members and officials, employees under Section 24A that was made compulsory. Then disqualification of committee and its members under Section 77A and 78. So there is a provision of disqualification of committee and its members under this particular section if they do not follow provisions of the Act. Then last date of conducting AGM on or before 30th September is against 14th August prior to 14th February 2013. So last date of conducting AGM is now fixed, that is after closure of the financial year on or before 30th of September, you have to conduct your annual general body meeting. Of course, because of this pandemic situation for financial year 1920 and financial year 2021, they have relaxed this particular date. And if you see or if you check the history, you will come to know that these dates for conducting AGM, they extend at the last moment, and the way of extension of the date is common man may feel कि last moment पे क्यों extend किया या फिर ये extension एक circular basis पे आता है तो इतना time क्यों लगाया? Because if you see, this is a provision that last date of conduct of AGM is on or before 30th of September after end of the financial year. This is provision of the Act, and any circular or notification cannot override provision of the Act or any section. That is the reason any officer or even minister on their own, they cannot change this particular date from 30th September to 31st October or 30th of November or any day. For any change in this particular date, they need approval of the legislature. They need approval of the our local assembly. And if assembly session is not in place, then only way to extend this particular date is by way of gazette notification under powers of the cabinet decision, which is valid for 6 months. And they need to authorize that particular cabinet decision in next their assembly session. So that is the reason they could not extend particular date in time, because there was no cabinet decision. No cabinet meeting happened on that particular date. So that was a main issue. Of course, for financial year 1920, they have extended this particular date up to 31st March 2021. And for financial year 2021, they have extended this particular date up to 31st December 2021. So this is the main change. Then filing of annual mandatory returns with the registrar under section 79, subsection 1A and subsection 1B. This is a major amendment after this particular amendment in the Act. So every cooperative society has to file their annual returns. Just like returns under Income Tax Act, they have to file a few returns under Cooperative Act under section 79, 1A and 1B. Then there is one more amendment, and the major amendment in the Act is related with the word administrator. They have removed the word administrator, and now the term is authorized officer. And they also changed rights of the administrator, authorized officer, and now authorized officer can hold their position for a period of 6 months maximum. And this extension, one more 6 months extension he can get, but an authorized officer cannot hold position for period not more than 1 year in any case. Then this is an example of there are various types of cooperative societies in India, like cooperative bank, cooperative credit society, consumer cooperative society, producers cooperative society, marketing, milk, sugar. and of course housing society. There are more than 50 types of cooperative societies in India. If we straightway come to our today's topic, that is accounting and auditing, if we check definition of cooperative accounting, it is a basic application of financial accounting principle, concepts and policies of cooperatives in order to ascertain the financial position, ensure viable operations, promote accountability and efficient management of cooperative financial resources. So this is a basic definition of a cooperative accounting, just like accounting in any other field. Accounting in cooperative is applicable. Now the next question is, what are the objectives of cooperative accounting? Because this is a not any person or any group of person is not the owner of this particular cooperative body, or all are equal shareholders in this cooperative body. So what are the objectives of cooperative accounting? Main objective is to ensure the cooperative society is managed efficiently by way of keeping and maintaining proper books of accounts, safeguarding cooperative society resources and funds, as well as those of the members. Main objective is directed towards improvement of economic conditions of members by utilization of resources contributed by them, and it also ensures the members are paid as high as possible in forms of incomes and dividends. Because ultimate objective of cooperative is to do some kind of business. And now you will ask me what type of business a cooperative housing society is engaged in, because we commonly think a cooperative housing society is a non-profit making organization. Yes, cooperative housing society is non-profit making organization, but being in this particular field, you are united, you are sharing few types of expenses, you are sharing few types of activities, you are sharing few types of benefits, and because you are united, because you have a bargaining power as a society, you get a better quote. Say for example, if you want to keep a security guard for your protection of your premises, it will be a costly thing, because he may charge you 20,000, 25,000 per month. And if you keep that security guard for your society, then also he will charge you 20,000, 25,000 per a month. So naturally, you are sharing his services just because you are a cooperative housing society. So this way you are saving your money, and saving your money is also one of the business motives. Likewise, all types of activities like garden facilities, swimming pool facilities, gymnasium facilities, you are keeping that particular facility open for you, only for your members, and you are enjoying benefits of all that facilities just because you are a cooperative society. So naturally, it is also to ensure members are paid as high as possible, in not in terms of money, but in terms of satisfaction. That is also objective of this particular cooperative accounting. Then importance of cooperative accounting, proper accounting is put in place, and therefore the assets and liabilities of the societies are properly safeguarded, efficient decision making. The management can justify continued members' investment in a cooperative society. The cooperative society is able to meet their legal requirements under the Cooperative Societies Act, because over and above all other things, there is a requirement of Cooperative Act that you need to keep your books of accounts on a regular basis, and you need to get it audited. So it is a requirement of Cooperative Societies Act. So over and above your requirement, there is a requirement of the society. There is a requirement under the Act also. Now, which type of books we need to maintain for the purpose of recording all the business transactions? Like minute books for recording proceedings of the general body, minute books for recording the proceedings of the managing committee, registers of application for membership containing name, address of the applicant, date of receipt of application, of number of shares applied. If there is any refusal to any membership, then date of communication of that particular decision, along with the reasons for that particular refusing the admission of the member. Then admission book showing names and addresses of each members, date of admission, shares allotted to him, and shares transferred to him. All those details are required. Then nomination registers, then cash book showing daily receipts and payment balances at the end of the day. Then receipt book containing forms in duplicate, one of each set to be issued for money received by the society and other to serve as a counterfoil. Then voucher foil containing all the vouchers for contingent expense incurred by the society. Vouchers should be serially numbered, filed chronologically. That is also one of the requirements. Then ledgers of borrowings. If there are any borrowings in olden days, there was a concept of formation of a cooperative society, then purchase of a land for that particular cooperative society, then construction of building using borrowing from Maharashtra State Housing Finance Corporation or any other banking institution. So naturally, there was a concept of borrowing by the members or borrowing by the society for the members. So ledgers of borrowings and showing deposits and other borrowings of all kinds. Now also in case of a redevelopment or in case of especially in case of a self redevelopment, there may be this situation may arise that borrowings of the society. So ledgers of those borrowings. And in case of society issuing loans, of course, this is not applicable in case of housing society, so we can skip that particular part. Then register of dividend, this is also we can skip because not applicable in case of housing society. Then the financial statement of the society. Financial statement of the society comprising of income statement, appropriation account, statement of financial position, and cash flow statement. So what is the income statement? Income statement is your income and expenditure account in case of housing society. Appropriation statement is not applicable for housing society. Statement of financial position, that is a balance sheet for housing society, and cash flow statement, that is a receipt and payment for the housing society. So all these areas are applicable for housing society. Now, fundraising for a cooperative society. What is a fundraising for a cooperative society? We commonly know this as a maintenance charges for housing society. So maintenance charges as well as specific funds which are required to raise by a housing society, that is covered in this particular fundraising of cooperative society. Any cooperative society which is authorized under bylaws of the bylaws which are approved by the registrar, they have to raise their funds by issue of debentures or bonds. This is not applicable for housing society, but maintenance is applicable in case of housing society. So this is basically fundraising is restricted to the extent of maintenance charges and funds, that is sinking fund and repairs funds in case of housing. The registrar may by general or special order lay down such additional conditions as to cooperative society may receive deposits, issue debentures, or raise loans from any creditors or any other financial bank. If you know about self-redevelopment, then in case of a self-redevelopment, there are instructions issued by the registrars for obtaining finances from types of institutions and how to implement that. So registrar has powers to order or issue instructions in this particular important accounting provisions in case of if we talk about cooperative housing society, reserve fund like sinking fund, repairs and maintenance fund. These are important funds which cooperative society has to maintain. In addition to that particular fund, there is one more new fund that came into the picture, that is education and training fund. Now, what is the education and training fund? Every cooperative housing society has to collect minimum 10 rupees per month per member. They need to collect from every member and they need to utilize that amount collected by way of education and training fund for the purpose of education and training of the members and staff of the housing society. So this is a compulsory provision and every society has to collect this education and training fund and they need to utilize the education and training fund only through the notified institutions approved by the registrar, and they need to take training sessions every year. And as per registrar circular, at least 20% of the members should be educated uh, by spending this particular education and training fund during the financial. If we talk about audit of a cooperative society, then it is having some kind of historical information and importance also. So what is the audit? That audit of cooperative society that was traditionally carried out by the officers of the cooperative department working under the control of the registrar, who was having entire responsibility and rights of conduct of audit of this cooperative field. But after the amendment in Cooperative Societies Act in the year 2013, they have introduced Section 81 of the Maharashtra Cooperative Societies Act and authorizing societies to get their accounts audited by the auditor from the panel of auditors approved by the state government and are prepared by the registrar or an authority authorized by the state government in this particular behalf, possessing required qualification and experience as the case may be. So after amendment in 2013 and after introduction of section 81, selection of auditor and conduct of audit is a right of the society, and they can appoint an auditor from the panel of the auditor approved by the state government. So we commonly call them as a panel auditors, and we can select any auditor from the panel auditors uh, in the state of Maharashtra. There is a panel of auditors, and you can select any auditor for your society to get the audit done. If we check details on cooperative department's website, you will get the information that panel auditor is for 2017 to 2020. So this was a panel auditors period or last panel auditors period, that is from the year 2017 to 2020. But now this panel is extended due to this pandemic situation, and the same panel which was selected in the year 2017 is authorized to continue till 31st March 2021. As per that particular website, total number of auditors and on panel is more than 11,600. Out of that, chartered accountants are 2,500, cost accountants are 1,000 plus, and all others are certified auditors or departmental auditors. Now, what is a certified auditor or departmental auditor? A person having a specified examination passed, which is that particular exam is conducted by the cooperative department, and then they confirm a person as a certified auditor, and that particular person can come on the panel by filling up a specified form, and then that particular person can also conduct audit subject to there are few restrictions. That is a type of auditor, type of societies, and based on that particular situation, they can conduct the audit. Now, what is a audit object? That is examination of accounts, inquiry into affairs of the cooperative society, whether working of a cooperative society is as per provisions of Cooperative Societies Act, then scrutinizing activities of cooperative societies. There are main objectives or you can say definition of audit in cooperative field. Now, what are the duties and responsibilities of the auditor under the Act? duties and responsibilities of the auditor under the Act is related with examination of overdue debt, audit to be conducted for the current year. Earlier year audit can be done by the auditor appointed by the registrar. Earlier to the amendment of the rules, the audit was extended back to the date of previous audit. Means auditor can be appointed for the current year only. And if the audit is not conducted for any earlier year, then that earlier year's audit right is with the registrar, and registrar can conduct the audit from the date of last audit. Say for example, if in case of housing society, that housing society is appointing you as an auditor for financial year 2021, then you need to check whether audit for financial year 1920 is conducted or not, and if it is conducted, if whether it is conducted by the panel auditor or not. If it is not conducted by the panel auditor, then you need to check the last audit conducted by the panel auditor, and from that particular date you need to conduct your audit with the approval of the registrar. So you cannot conduct audit only for the previous year. Yes, you can conduct audit for the previous year only if the periodical audit for the preceding previous year is also conducted by the panel auditor. Then it is a responsibility of the auditor to submit annual audit memorandum. We commonly call it as a audit report. Then certify balance sheet and profit and loss account is also the responsibility of the auditor. All types of schedules to attach to the audited statement is also one of the requirements. Prepare a summary of audit memorandum, that is summary report, and awarding audit classification based on certain marks or marking scheme. Auditor has to award audit classification. Then auditor has to report non-compliance with the reasons thereof, and a report about misappropriation and retention, etc., to the registrar. That is the responsibility of the auditor. If we check the Maharashtra Cooperative Societies Act after amendment, Chapter 8 is dealing with this particular audit provision. There are main sections which are focusing on audit of cooperatives. That is Section 81 on audit, Section 82 on rectification of defects in accounts, inquiry by the registrar, inspection of books of indebted society, Section 85 related with cost of inquiry and inspection, Section 86 about recovery of cost, Section 87 about the registrars to bring defects, disclose an inquiry or inspection to the notice of the society. Section 88 deals with the power of registrar to assess the damages against the relinquishment of the promoters, etc. 88A related with deposits towards fees of inquiry. 89 power to enforce attendance, etc. 89A powers to inspect working of the society, and 90 constitution or recognition of federal authority to supervise working of the society. So all these sections are commonly have the answer to all the questions in the mind of the common man. So one who is feeling himself as a third party, he should read all these sections, basic section 81 to section 90. Then only he can come to know which type of grievances are covered under the provisions of the auditor or under the provisions of the registrar through the audit. We will check a few important sections of this chapter number 8. Section 81, subsection 1, clause A, that audit time prescribed. So the society shall cause to be audited its accounts at least once in every financial year. So every society has to conduct audit at least once in every financial year, and cause it to be completed within a period of 4 months from the close of financial year to which such accounts relate. So as per the Act, Section 81, subsection 1, clause A, there is a provision that every cooperative society has to conduct their audit and complete that within 4 months from the closure of the financial year to which such accounts relate. That means 4 months from the end of the financial year comes to 31st of July. So after end of every 31st of March, by end of 31st of July, you need to complete your audit. Of course, due to pandemic, this period is extended up to 31st December 2021. In any case, before the issuance of notice of the holding of annual general body, it is saying the society shall cause to be audited its accounts at least once in every financial year. So साल में एक बार audit complete होना जरूरी है. Then it calls to be completed within period of 4 months from the close of the financial year to which such accounts relate. So it should be completed by end of 31st of July. And further it is saying, and in any case before issuance of notice of the holding of annual general body meeting. So in any case before issuance of holding of annual general body meeting. So annual general body meeting as per normal provision under the Cooperative Act, last date for holding of annual general body meeting is 30th of September. In any case before issuance of notice of holding annual general body meeting, for any annual general body meeting you need to give clear notice of 14 days. So if you want to hold annual general body meeting on the last date of the allowed date, that is 30th of September of any financial year, 14 days clear notice, that means you need to give notice by end of 15th of September of that particular period. That means in any case before issuance of notice. So if you have not conducted your audit within 4 months from the close of the financial year, you may get some more time before issuance of notice for annual general body meeting. But of course, it is again dependent on the registrar of that particular concerned area, how the registrar acts after 31st of July on the completion of audit and before issuance of notice for annual general body meeting, how the registrar looks to this particular situation. Everything is dependent on that particular part also. Then appointment of auditor. Auditor or auditing firm from a panel prepared by the registrar and approved by the state government. This we just few slides back we discussed that every society has a right to appoint auditor from the panel prepared by the state government. Then appointed by general body of the society as provided under section 2A of section 75. So it is a right of the society as per section 75 subsection 2A to appoint auditor for the society from the list of panel auditors. Then reports to be given to auditor shall give audit report before the annual general body meeting to the society, and in case of Apex Society, audit report shall be laid before both the houses of state legislature in such manner as may be prescribed. So this is not particularly applicable for a cooperative housing society. Then, if society failed to appoint auditor, this is a very interesting question, and many societies fall in this particular situation that they fail to appoint auditor in their annual general body meeting. And if society failed to appoint auditor in their annual general body meeting, which is prescribed under section 75 subsection 2A, then if the registrar is satisfied the society has failed and society has not filed any return under section 79(1)(b), then registrar by order for the reasons to be recorded in writing may cause its accounts to be audited by the auditor from the panel of auditors approved by the state government. So if society fails to appoint auditor and if society appoints auditor but fails to file return under section 79(1)(b), then registrar may appoint auditor for the society from the panel auditors list on the random basis. provided that no auditor shall accept audit more than 20 societies for the audit in the financial year, excluding the societies having paid up share capital of less than 1 lakh. So, auditor cannot accept audit for more than 20 societies having share capital of more than rupees 1 lakh. So, this is a restriction on the auditor, but as a audit or as a society, when you appoint an auditor, you should ask to the auditor whether you are having more than 20 societies in hand whose share capital is more than 1 lakh rupees. If answer is yes, then you cannot appoint that particular person as your auditor. Of course, there is one stay imposed by Aurangabad bench of Bombay High Court on this particular number. But the matter is sub judice and department is pressing their notification. Panel of auditors. What is panel of auditors? Registrar through state government, they finalize the manner how to prepare a panel, how to maintain the panel, how to complete the documentation for the panel, and the registrar through the state government finalize their panel of auditors. It is actually not related with the society, but while appointing the auditor, we should check whether that auditor is on the panel or not. Then as a common man, you should know what are the contents of the auditor's report. So auditor's report shall specifically contain all particulars of defects or irregularities observed in the audit, and in case of financial irregularity or any kind of misappropriation or embezzlement of the funds or fraud, the auditor or the auditing firm shall investigate further and shall submit the report with the modus operandi, the interestment and amount involved. So all particulars auditor has to find. Further, the auditor's report shall have accounting irregularities and their implications on the financial statement. So not only the irregularities, but the implications on the financial statements and what are the effects of that particular irregularity that you need to report. Then functioning of the committee and subcommittee of the society, that also you need to check. Then remuneration of the auditor and auditing firm shall be borne by the society and shall be as per the prescribed norms by the state government. The registrar shall maintain a list of societies district-wise and list of working of the societies, list of societies whose accounts are audited and list of societies whose accounts are not audited within prescribed time. That is, after completion of audit period, the registrar is also required to prepare a district-wise list of completed audits, pending audits, etc. And then they need to take further action as per the requirement of the law. Section 81(2) audit to cover that the audit under subsection 1 of section 81 shall be carried out as per accounting standard as may be notified by the government, and they should report on overdues or debts, cash balances, securities, valuation of the assets, liabilities of the society, whether loans and advances and debts made by the societies on the basis of security have been properly secured, and terms on which such loans and advances are made or debts are incurred are not prejudicial to the interest of the society and the member. Then whether the transactions of the society which are represented merely by the book entries are not prejudicial to the interest of the society, whether loans and advances made by the society have been shown as a deposits. All these points are required to be covered under the audit. Then whether personal expenses have been charged to the revenue account, whether society has incurred any expenditure in furtherance of its objects or otherwise with detailed note thereon. Then whether the society has properly utilized their financial assistance granted by the government or government undertakings or financial institutions for the purpose for which such assistance was granted. Then whether the society is properly carrying out its objects objectives towards members, etc. All these points are to be covered under this particular section. Then under section 8 subsection 3, there are few powers of the auditor which all, as a society, the society has to understand. As per clause A, the auditor shall, for the purpose of audit, at all times have access to all books of accounts, documents, papers, securities, cash, and other properties belonging to or in the custody of the society, and may summon any person in possession of or the responsible for the custody or any such books, accounts, documents, papers, securities, cash, or other properties to produce the same at any place at the headquarters of the society or any branch. So auditor has every power to call for any type of paper, information, or any document which is available in the office of the society. Auditor has power to call for any document for purpose of his own. Section 81 subsection 5b provision. This is typically for the purpose of the auditor, but every society also or aggrieved party also has to keep eye on this particular provision. That is provided that where the auditor has come to conclusion in his report that any person is guilty of any offense relating to accounts or any other offenses, he shall file specific report to the registrar within 15 days from the date of submission of the audit report. So this is very important provision. When auditor comes to know that there is any person is guilty of any offense relating to their accounts or any other offenses, he shall file a specific report to the registrar within 15 days from that particular event. Then auditor concerned shall, after obtaining the written permission from the registrar, file a FIR with the local police station to report such offense. So it is also a responsibility of the auditor to file an FIR with the information which he has. And if the auditor who fails to file such FIR shall be liable for disqualification. So as an aggrieved party, you can insist to the auditor concerned if there is any kind of issue in accounts of the society, if there is any misapprehension, misappropriation, fraud in the society, then as a aggrieved party, you need to push the auditor to identify that particular part which you have suspension of, quantify that particular fraud, and he has to file a FIR. If auditor do not file FIR, then he is liable for disqualification. That aggrieved party has to file complaint against the auditor, and then registrar will take appropriate action. Provided further that when it is brought to the notice of the registrar that auditor has failed to initiate action as specified the above, the registrar shall cause to file a FIR. So if auditor do not file it and registrar has instance to believe that there is any fraud happen, then registrar can also file a FIR on auditor's behalf by a person authorized by him on his behalf. Provided also that on conclusion of his audit, the auditor finds that there is an apparent instance of financial irregularities resulting into losses of the society caused by the members of the committee or officers of the society or by any other person, then he shall prepare a special report. So in addition to file an FIR and every other part, the auditor has to issue a special report and submit the same to the registrar along with his audit report. Auditor has to give a special report. Failure to file such special report would amount to negligence in the duties of the auditor, and he shall be liable for disqualification for appointment as an auditor or any other action as the registrar may think fit. This is last part of our presentation, that is the audit. Many times we come across this particular question from a common man That is whether we can ask for re-audit on a particular information to the registrar, because हमने जो ऑडिटर ने ऑडिट किया है, हम ऑडिटर से खुश नहीं है, ऑडिटर ने कुछ देखा ही नहीं है, ऑडिटर ने कुछ लोकेट ही नहीं किया, तो हमें री ऑडिट करके. So whether re-audit is a regular right of the member or aggrieved party, or whether it is a special right, that is covered under section 81 subsection 6 and subsection 7. Subsection 6 says, if it appears to the registrar, on the application by the society or otherwise. So if it should be appeared to the registrar only. So who is having right? Registrar is having right. On application by the society or otherwise. So from the application by the society or otherwise, that it is necessary to expedient or to re-audit any accounts to the society. The registrar may, by order, provide for such re-audit, and the provisions of this act applicable to audit of accounts of the society shall apply to such re-audit. So it is in the hands of the registrar, and if he appears on application by the society or otherwise, so society can also go to the registrar that audit was not proper, or otherwise any member can also go to the registrar and file an application. And if he feels there is a requirement of re-audit, then then registrar will order for re-audit under section 81 subsection 6. Special audit of a cooperative bank, if requested by the Reserve Bank of India, shall be conducted by report thereof and shall be submitted to Reserve Bank of India. So this section, subsection 7, is applicable in case of bank. So you need to look into this particular section 81 subsection 6 very carefully. Only if a member of the society or a group of members of the society feels there should be a re-audit on their own, they cannot insist committee, or they cannot insist the annual general body meeting to conduct a re-audit. It is a right with the registrar, and registrar can authorize the re-audit under section 81 subsection 6. There is one more amendment and one more interesting area in this particular audit, that is rectification of defects in account. If after the audit, auditor is pointing out the irregularities, and if there are irregularities can be rectified, then there is a provision under section 82. And as per section 82, rectification of defects in accounts is possible if the result of the audit is held under last preceding section, that is section 81, discloses any defects in the working of the society. So as per audit, there are defects in the working of the society. The society shall, within 3 months from the date of audit report, explain to the registrar the defects or the irregularities pointed out by the auditor, and take steps to rectify the defects and remedy irregularities, and report to the registrar the action taken by it thereon, and place the same before the next annual general body. So if there are defects in the accounts, defects in the working, they can repair them within 3 months from the date of audit, and they can explain that particular defect to the next annual general body meeting. So this was a defect and now is repaired. The registrar may also make an order directing the society or its officers to take such action as the case may be, as specified in the order, to remedy the defect within the time limit specified there. So within 3 months, society has to submit a rectification report. We commonly call it as a Form O. So Form O is for the purpose of rectification of defects pointed out by the auditor. And within 3 months, you can go to same auditor and you can check with the auditor whether that defect is removed or not. Provided further that it shall be the responsibility of the auditor concerned, the auditor who has conducted the audit is auditor concerned, to offer his remarks on the rectification reports of the society item wise till the entire rectification is made by the society and submit his report to the registry. So it is the responsibility of the auditor to check or recheck whether the defect is removed or not. Till the last it is removed, and society can and report. He need to mark his comment on this form O, whether that defect is removed or not. And if the defect is not removed, then society has to redo that particular defect, and they need to come back to the auditor again till the last defect is covered up. So here I'm at the end of my presentation. If you have any type of questions, then you can unmute yourself and ask me question directly, or you can put in the chat box.
So, Amiji, it was a really very insightful session, and I have got a couple of questions. Like
Yes.
the first question is that when that redevelopment of the property happens, so can a cooperative housing society distribute its reserve and surplus, such as the general reserve, sinking fund reserve, repair fund reserves, and all, among members?
This is a common question which we come across in case of every type of society. That can we distribute the sinking fund, reserve fund, and any other fund which is available with the society, which is a handsome amount at the time of redevelopment. Because after redevelopment, few new members are going to come, and we need to share this particular amount with the new members. तो हमने इतने साल से जो जमा किया हुआ पैसा है वो हम लोग बांट लेते हैं, और नया मेंबर को इसमें कोई राइट नहीं होना चाहिए. So when you go to redevelopment, you need to understand it is not only the area against which you are going to get a new area, it is against this particular fund also. So what happens in case of housing society, आप लोगों ने एक XYZ अमाउंट का फंड जमा कर लिया. ऐसे फॉर एग्जांपल देयर इज अ फंड ऑफ ₹1 crore इन द सोसाइटी ऑफ 10 मेंबर्स, और 10 मेंबर्स की सोसाइटी में 1 crore है, तो हर एक के हिस्से का 10-10 लाख रुपया है. दैट इज नोन थिंग. So when you bargain with the builder for what extra you are going to get us, at that time you need to keep in mind this particular portion also, and you need to bargain to your builder considering your existing area plus your share in this particular surplus fund. So you cannot directly distribute that particular fund amongst yourself, but instead of that you can bargain with your builder, and you can get funds through him in place of a corpus which he is going to give to the society. So because whenever society forms, a builder introduces new members, and he also gives a kind of corpus to existing members. Instead of that, you need to bargain at the time of drafting a development agreement only, and you need to get money through builder. You cannot directly distribute your society's funds, but you can get amount from the builder. I hope I gave you answer to your question.
Yeah, thanks. There is another question here that if a special fund is created, like for meting out some expenses of litigation and etc., and after litigation gets over and that the collection of collected amount remain as a balance, can that be distributed among members?
No. Any fund collected from the members, you cannot distribute to members at any point of time. Only thing you can appropriate that particular portion against your regular maintenance activity. So instead of distribution, what you can do, you can pass a resolution, and appropriately you can allow that particular fund to be utilized against your regular maintenance activity. So instead of distribution funds back to the members, what you can do, you can reduce your maintenance for next couple of months, and you can adjust that particular amount through this particular fund account.
Okay. There is one more question here, that how does one become a member? Is it a paid membership to the society?
Paid membership means?
There is a question, how does one become a member to the society?
To become a member in the society, in the case of a cooperative society, you should possess a unit in that particular cooperative society. And once you purchase any unit from builder or subsequently, then what you can do, you can once you purchase any area or once you purchase any flat in the society, you need to apply in prescribed manner to the society. You need to pay that membership fee, transfer premium to the society. And then in the subsequent managing committee meeting, society has to appoint that particular person as a incoming member of the society, and then he can become a member of the. So to become a member of the society, you should buy a unit in that particular society.
Okay. Two participants have raised hand. Ami Dikshit, you can unmute yourself and ask question.
Yes. How do I?
Yeah, you are audible.
Audible?
Yeah, you are
Hello.
audible.
Yeah. Okay. I have two questions. One is, this is a further to the question which you had asked, that when redevelopment happens, can one distribute sinking fund and the etc. and general reserves among members? And the answer was that you cannot distribute, but one has to bargain with the builder and get the money through the builder indirectly. Now, my question here is, what happens when a self redevelopment is happening?
Yes.
So how there is no builder involved there? How do you? What is the answer then? How do you handle these funds and appropriate it to the member?
Okay.
How do the members get the benefit of this?
Okay. In case of a self-redevelopment, the thing is you need to develop your own premises, right? So naturally
Yes.
you need funds in the society. And when you need funds, actually to introduce funds newly to the society, and no question of utilization of funds will arise. Because in case of a self-redevelopment, a handsome amount you need to spend on the self-redevelopment. And through that particular self-redevelopment, you need to construct your future building. So naturally, you need more funds to invest in the society, and there will not be any question arise in case of a self-development to withdraw money from the society. Okay, and in case of a self-development also, you need to appoint an intermediary company. It is not that easy to go for self-development directly. You need to introduce a special purpose vehicle, separate company you need to introduce in between, and through that particular company you need to build up your new buildings. So while doing that particular exercise, you can utilize this particular money.
Okay. Okay, that's
So
very clear.
yes.
Yeah. Okay. And my second question was, we are a society of 50 members and we were doing manual accounts. Now we want to shift to computerized accounts. To the best of your knowledge, which is a good software suitable for us? You may just recommend two or three or one, but to the best of your knowledge, I completely understand it will be that way.
The thing is, from manual accounting to computerized accounting is a typical situation. Only thing I can share as per my experience with you is you need to go for a paid software, and whatever softwares available freely or softwares which gives free service are not up to the mark, because being a free thing, they don't have everything in their software. So best software for society accounting is Tally, but if you want app-based softwares or any other software, then you need to go for paid version of the software. You can contact me on my WhatsApp number. I will definitely guide you further on this. But the thing is, don't go for any kind of research because they are not up to the mark.
Okay. I will definitely get in touch with you. Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Mahesh has also raised his hand. Please, Mr. Mahesh, you may unmute yourself and go ahead.
Mr. Amit, our society is 10-year-old and they want to carry out some major repairs. Now, the understanding earlier was that sinking fund can be used for major repairs maybe after 20-25 years. But it seems there is an impression that there is a recent amendment which allows the society to use sinking fund even much earlier than that, say after 10 years or 12 years or whatever it is. What do you think? Is it correct to use sinking fund for a society which is 10-year-old?
Yes, as per provisions prior to amendment, prior to 2013, there was a restriction that you need to keep sinking fund separately. Then you need to go to registrar, you need to apply to the registrar for withdrawal of your own fixed deposits in sinking fund. And then only you can utilize that particular sinking fund amount for your special repair. But now after that particular amendment in 2013, you need to pass a resolution in your annual general body meeting and you can utilize funds available with the society for the structural repairs or major repairs. You can use, but definitely you should not use a major portion of that particular sinking fund because it is a built up amount over the period of 10 years and you cannot spend that amount for your major repairs because ultimately it is for your future and structural defects only. So you can use with the permission of annual general body meeting and to the extent annual general body meeting feels suitable, you can utilize. No need to go to registrar, no need to make any kind of special application, no need to go to auditor for the permission, you can utilize the fund.
But as you said that some portion can be utilized, what is
Yes,
your recommendation?
it should be a logical thing, and of course, कैसा है कि इतना सारा पैसा जमा करने में आपको टाइम लगा है. अभी आपके पास खर्चा आया है तो आप एकदम से अमाउंट विड्रॉ कर लोगे तो फिर से वो जीरो नहीं होना चाहिए. Proportionate amount, normally what societies do, society takes 30-40% from the fund amount and remaining amount they collect through not a long term but a period of 1 year or 2 years target, and then they try to cope up with the deficit they created in this particular sinking fund. So that way you can do. So you can directly utilize 30-40% of the sinking fund amount, and remaining portion you can raise with keeping target of 1 year, 2 years, and you can reinstate the original position of sinking fund in shortest future.
Thank you, Mr. Amit.
I think there is no further question. So over to Hiralji. You are mute, sir.
Yes. Amitji, there are some offshoots out of your answers. Particularly, I will say, for example, the sinking fund has been defined under the Act and the rule itself, the purpose and everything. Will it be possible for the general body meeting to change that and use it for the maintenance purposes? In answer to the first query,
Your voice is not clear.
Shall I complete, Amitji? Say in the
Your
first.
voice is not clear.
In the first, am I audible, Dharmendra, everyone? Hello.
Yeah, you are audible.
Yes, Amitji, in the first answer to the first query
So you are
about
audible, but your voice is not.
my query is that can the sinking fund be converted by the general body resolution for the purpose of using it for the maintenance if it is not possible to distribute among the members at the time of redevelopment of the property of society?
Yes. Not for regular repairs activities, but for major repairs activities, you can do that particular work.
But Amitji, at the time of redevelopment, normally the question of major repair doesn't arise because we are going for overall
Yes, question of
demolition
major
the
repairs will not
structure.
happen.
So there is no question of
Right.
because
Yes.
my understanding is sinking fund is under the act itself. It is specific. The object of the sinking fund has been defined under the law, and
Yes.
therefore I understand that it cannot be used for repairs and maintenance or regular service charges.
Yes.
But the
Yes.
third query was about the legal fees, for example. I think in that case, the general body has created that fund, and therefore general body may have a right to change the usage of that. Am I right?
Yes, at the time of redevelopment, what happens? You need to appoint a PMC, the
Yeah.
project management consultant, or you need to appoint an architect, or you need to appoint a consultant for the entire redevelopment process, and you need to pay a handsome amount to all these organizations. So to pay to all these organizations, you can utilize the sinking fund amount or any other amount. But still, if the fund amount is so huge that you cannot utilize it entirely, then in that particular case also, after utilizing amount for this initial development cost, after that also, if there is any amount remaining, then members they ask for withdrawal from that particular fund. So instead of withdrawal from that particular fund, you need to bargain with the builder कि भाई चलो हमें एज अ सोसाइटी एंड में कॉर्पस का अमाउंट जितना कम दोगे तो भी चलेगा, इतना अमाउंट हर एक मेंबर को डिस्ट्रीब्यूट करके दीजिए. So that option always you have. Ultimately, what builder is doing for you, actually he is a contractor, and what that particular contractor is doing for you, he is presenting a project report in front of you. Okay, I am going to develop this project, and I will give you 100 units extra or 100 square feet extra or 200 square feet extra. Along with that, I will give you rupees 2 lakhs, 3 lakhs, 4 lakhs, depending on your area in that particular society. You bargain with builder on that particular amount, because ultimately he has to form a new building, and he has to introduce new members, and he has to give X amount as a corpus to the society. And when society is already having corpus, there is no requirement of further corpus to the new society. So this way you can get a golden point.
Right. That means we'll have to work out the intrinsic value of each share,
Yes,
and equal to the intrinsic value, we'll ask the incoming member or the builder or the
exactly.
Amit,
Yes,
one
exactly.
more additional query. Say, for example, at the time of finalization of accounts in a cooperative housing society, it is necessary to transfer 25% of the surplus to the general reserve. Now, if the society has failed to do it for a number of years, then can it be covered under rectification of accounts in the subsequent year to work out the excess and then transfer it to the general reserve under rectification?
Yes, society definitely has to do that particular part. And 25% of the surplus of the previous year they need to do. So, for example, for finalization of accounts for financial year 2021, you need to transfer 25% of the surplus of 1920, and this is applicable from the amendment the year 2013. So from financial year 13-14 onwards, it was expected to happen. So ultimately, it will result in the increase in the